According to the Straits Times, a trustworthy local newspaper, Singapore is the third worst country in the world when it comes to the lack of sleep. In fact, sleep deprivation in Singapore is so prevalent that it is clearly notable in the Singapore American School. Today we,
Harrison,
and Oliver, will talk to you about sleep, one of the most important things we humans do in our lives. Welcome to our TriTime journey of 2016. Like anything, our journey and road wasn't easy. It was bumpy. We had some ups, some downs, but luckily, our ending point was not subterranean. In fact, we finished on such a positive note. It felt like the summit of Mount Everest. Harrison and I struggled at first finding a driving question, but Mr. Buxton, our teacher, told us all we needed to get started. He simply kept asking us, "Will you stay up at night thinking about your topic?" And we said, "No. We love our sleep." And that was it. We were already at base camp. From there, it was fun, simply fun, as we were learning about things that we were interested in. That is the point of TriTime. Every day, we had a difficult time achieving our goals. Good thing was, we had a set list of things we needed to do. And every day we just crossed a few off, going one step at a time up the mountain, and eventually finding ourselves at the top. The hardest thing about our project was finding a great, not just good, but great driving question. We saw at the beginning that our driving question was the biggest part of our project, and we didn't want to be invested in a project we had no interest whatsoever in. Since it was a passion project, and we didn't think that our main passions were good enough to use in a project for 3 weeks. We had our minds fixated around getting $1,000 and seeing what we could do with it in the New York Stock Exchange. Harrison and I didn't really wrap our heads around the fact or even grasp a sense of the difficulty of this project. We then struggled for a few class periods where we feared we were falling behind, and we were. Yet, we kept going. For every brick wall that fell onto our path, we had a bulldozer to knock it down. We then moved towards thinking about what kept us up at night, dreaming and thinking about it. However, nothing came to mind, and then we thought, sleep. Yes, sleep. Nothing keeps me, or Harrison, from our beloved sleep. My dearest friend and closest companion, a full night's rest. Sleep. And that was it. We already had a driving question that we were going to use for the next 3 weeks of the project. Then we were going to refine it so that it would cater to our goal for our end project.
our driving question was, how might Singapore American School students investigate and examine the various facets of sleep in an attempt to bring awareness to the menacing effects of sleep deprivation in middle school students? We start off with our research, after getting our goal and driving question all down pat. For that, we use the MISO technique. We use mainly media, as anyone would, but we branched off into sending and reading surveys, conducting interviews with professionals on making infographics, and had a great time in the process. In the meantime, we improved at our technological skills in which we could use in the future. According to the National Sleep Foundation, sleep is the most important thing that we do. Did you know that we humans sleep for more than 1/3 of our lives? That's 25 years sleeping. It is so important that when you sleep for less than 7 hours each night, your life expectancy will reduce. Sleeping is even more important than eating. You can only survive 11 days without sleeping until your brain can't take it anymore, while you can fast while not eating food for 2 months. Adolescents can actually learn better when their schools start later, and then they can wake up later. Have you heard of circadian rhythms? Which makes up 15% of our own DNA, the rhythms which affect the way we sleep and stay awake. Did you know? Do you drink coffee? Because if you do, watch out, as caffeine can interrupt our process of sleeping by up to 40 minutes. It had been a day since I went to sleep. I was suffering from multiple symptoms of sleep deprivation, such as impaired movement and inability to focus. I was struggling, stumbling all over the place. I couldn't think, but I had to. I had a test in 2 days, a test that I needed to study for, but I didn't account for the fact that sleep is studying, and that if I study on a paper before sleeping and getting a good night's rest, I could retain the information much better. But no, I didn't know that, so I pushed for another 24 hours and soon experienced more serious symptoms. My oxygen level intake lowered in an attempt to stay awake, and my anaerobic powers decreased. My studying was really not going well as I started to stumble and forget my words I was trying to remember and study. Oh, this was not good. This was really not good. I needed to sleep. Yes, sleep. But I just couldn't.
Having troubles falling asleep at night? Suffering from sleep deprivation? This is quite a normal problem for teenagers. In fact, a study by Medical Daily found that nearly 1/3 of Americans are sleep deprived. I'm going to inform you about some of the biggest mistakes we make in our daily routines, based on Men's Health's articles published by Jerry Kennard, who is a men's health expert. Although this information comes from Men's Health, it relates to anyone. Firstly, you may go to bed at different times every night. You won't be able to develop a natural sleep cycle if you go to bed at different times every night. Yes, even on the weekend. Another common mistake people make is charging your phone next to your bed. The blue light coming from your device disrupts your sleep, and it's difficult to adapt to the dark light after using a computer or phone right before trying to go to sleep. You will also be tempted to go on your phone if it's an arm's length from your bed. You might think that exercising at night would help you fall asleep, but think again. The adrenaline can cause you to not be able to sleep. Working out is great, but vigorous workouts are better to do in the morning. Lastly, you are working or watching TV in bed. If you train your body to be awake in bed, it becomes hard to sleep. I know your bed is comfortable, but it should be a special place where your body sees it as a sleeping space, not as a working space, so it can distinguish the difference between the two.
Both Oliver and I observed that we were going to bed much earlier than our fellow friends in 7th grade. Whenever we were to tell our friends that we were going to bed around 9, they always seemed amazed that we were going to bed at such an early hour. But to Oliver and I, it was normal. Because of these reactions from our friends in our grade, we wanted to collect some data. And so we created a survey to collect information and get a better grasp of the problem of sleep deprivation with SAS 7th graders. Not only was the survey information beneficial to our research, we also completed the survey section in MISO. We wanted to find some data and different points of view from 7th graders at SAS. Oliver and I created a survey and sent it to 20 boys and girls. After researching, middle school students should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep, but the average amount of sleep from our survey results was only 7 hours. One of the most surprising facts was that the people who got 5 hours of sleep and 9 hours of sleep is equal. When we asked if they believed they should get more sleep, one student said, "I mean, I could, but why would I want to?" It seems as if some teenagers believe that sleep is unimportant, while others just have too busy of a schedule. I have a super high activity level, and with all the homework, I struggle some nights to get sleep because I did not have time to work out or play sports, said another student. One student said, "I do find myself getting sleepy in class because of my lack of sleep, but my body has adapted to the amount of sleep I get." On the brighter side, over 70% of the students' responses said that they were willing to learn more about sleep.
After receiving data about sleep deprivation at SAS and the comments students had about how important they see sleep, when we asked students if they believe they should get more sleep at night, one said, Definitely, but I don't think it is a realistic goal because of homework and then trying to get early morning training. We were motivated to help students at SAS get the adequate amount of sleep. In class, we learned about a website called change.org where you can start a petition and change something you believe in and feel passionately about, and by getting people to sign it and who want to support you. After 2 days, we had gotten over 110 signatures, and many people are sharing our petition at the current moment. Looking through our inbox, we had gotten mass emails to students about our change and support. There had also been a huge chain email with SAS students talking about school starting at 9 o'clock and ending at 4 to help with sleep deprivation. Mr. Buxton, our RLA teacher, is going to share the link on this blog, which gets hundreds of views a day. If this petition continues to grow, we could even build such a large base of students to bring a case to the SAS school board and help with sleep deprivation. We wrote a letter, or shall I say email, to the Singapore Neurology Sleep Center, but only exchanged one message as we didn't get to set a time to call or exchange future emails, as they never replied. As is everything, our journey was a bumpy road with many mishaps and problems along it. How we overcame it, however, is the most important part. We decided that our initial letter writing skills were not up to par, and therefore we practiced, and by the end we acquired a new skill of letter writing. We figured that since we had no luck with the Neurology Center, that we had exhausted that resource. We then went on to working with members of our community, such as Miss Dowd, who taught us some vital techniques as to making a great infographic, our end project and goal. We used our findings and learnings in letter writing techniques, or in other words, productive correspondence, to propose a conference with our technology teacher, which went very well.
If you know Oliver, you would instantly realize that he's a very creative guy, but he's also quite negative. He kept coming up with these super fantastic ideas of broadcasting and sharing our learning about sleep to the nation, but he had no funding for them. Oliver calls me an optimist, and therefore I came up with an idea to start a Kickstarter page where we could receive many funds in order to put our infographic on the back of a bus or on the side of 32 cabs nationwide. But unfortunately, it was an outrageous amount of money. But we thought it was worth a shot, so we weren't going to let that stop us, and we started to draft a Kickstarter to raise money for awareness of sleep deprivation in Singapore. But we were stopped at yet another brick wall. In order to make a Kickstarter, you need a product or something to give to the backers who donate to you. Because that didn't work out, we decided to bring awareness of sleep deprivation to SAS students by putting up posters, which we made our infographic around the school.
Throughout the entire process, Harrison and I were both very engaged, and that made it inevitable that we didn't always agree on things, such as formatting for our video. We argued a lot about what to do and use, but at the end we believe that helped us, as we can now come out being happy and having a better product, as it had both qualities of my interest and his. Another instance that we didn't see eye to eye was when we were meant to do research at the beginning, and we both found contradicting articles. We argued about who was right, but then used that to our advantages by finding out the real truth behind the facts and learning a new skill called fact-checking. Fact-checking is simply as you scan an article and find any flaws, and then find multiple articles to make sure that all of them say the same things.
Together, we both reflected on our progress over 13 times. We reflected on what we did on that certain day. We interpreted our knowledge and progress using guiding questions, and then we focused on the next steps we had to take our project to the next level. This was both a new strategy for Oliver and I, and it helped us plan out our time to use wisely and to see how much we were getting done on a daily basis. Some examples of this were progressing on creating a survey, because we had the idea of a survey on one day. We had to talk with Mr. Buxton on another day about how to make a good survey, and finally we completed and sent out our survey. Something that ended up to be a failure in the end was putting up posters in public transportation, but we reflected on the process of that trial and failure.
The past few weeks, Harrison and I have done so much work and learned so many interesting facts, but the most important thing we learned is probably how to work together, a vital skill for the future. Working together is so important and collaborating, as the majority of jobs require socializing in a peaceful and collaborative environment where everyone is in perfect unison. Therefore, with Harrison's help, we have come up with a claim for our journey together, stating that the function of a cog is meaningless unless all of the machines work in perfect unison. But why does all of this matter? Well, quite honestly, we believe that what we learn about ourselves and acquiring new skills was much more beneficial to our lives than the information about sleep that we learned about. We have reflected multiple times on individual days, but here we reflect on everything as a whole, as to thine oneself be true, and it must follow, as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. I believe that this wise statement best applies to try time, where students are requested to be true to themselves and independently collaborate with one's inner passions and will, venturing to improve in society. The correlation between the two is simply that in order to be true to yourself, you must acknowledge the thing we fear most, failure, in an attempt to improve. Something Harrison and I did very successfully. Thank you.